Sound like
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How's the brother?
I want you to introduce yourself. Introduce yourself for the people. I know who you is, but I need the people to know who you is, man.
I am MYON BURRELL, the people's voice.
That's why you MYON BURRELL, but you a lot more though. You the people's voice. What do the people's voice mean to you?
To me, the people's voice is actually being a voice for those who can't speak for themselves. You feel me? A lot of time we deal with deprivation as a people, specifically our people, dealing with restraints to where you can't vocalize your issues or speak about your trauma, or at least speak about it and it be received in a proper manner, or where somebody's actually trying to help you to solve those problems. So for me, it's like I feel like as a people, when we're at the table, it's obligatory for us to be representatives of the people that can't speak for themselves.
What you pushing though? What message you pushing? What your biggest message?
Pro-humanity. You feel me? All the way across the board. Like so many times we get caught up in a language, we get lost in a language, and we forget the reason why we do the things that we do. And so, I mean, I could talk about the economy, like I could talk about the judicial system, I could talk about the educational system, I could talk about, but it all boils down to the humanity and actually upholding a high moral character as a human being and doing what's basically incumbent on you to do, serving your purpose as an individual.
About prison reform, you pushing prison reform?
For sure.
I want to know, I want to dive into a bit about your story. I want to learn about, your experience. I know you went through, you was locked up for a while. How long was you locked up?
I was locked up for 18 years and a little bit more than 18 years.
When did that first happen? When did you go in?
I went to prison in 2002.
2002?
I came home at the end of 2020. So I went to prison when I was 16 years old. I came out when I was 34.
Okay. What, if you don't mind me asking you, what you go to jail for?
I went to prison for first-degree murder, and first-degree attempted murder for the benefit of a gang.
Okay. And you had an 18-year sentence?
No, I had a life sentence.
A life sentence?
I was given life plus. I had a life sentence and plus like extra consecutive sentence on top of a life sentence.
So, 16 years old, did they send you straight to prison, or was it juvenile, or?
I went straight to prison.
Okay. How was that? How was that experience? Like being young, 16 years old, you fresh.
I don't think that it's no real way for me to wrap up the experience of being a child forced into an adult prison system. But what I can tell you is that the beginning process was a very traumatic process for me, a very traumatic experience, because it was a dehumanizing process out the gate. You feel me?
So we really not even supposed to be looking at you right now. We're not supposed to be able to be here right now. Which you had a life plus sentence.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened? What happened pretty much with that? Like how did that get turned around? Were you?
So I was charged, tried, and convicted of a crime I didn't commit. At the time of my incarceration, it was a false narrative, a strong false narrative that was being pushed to society that our youth were super predators, that they were monsters. And people put these titles up on our kids, specifically our kids, but our people in general, but specifically our young black men. They put these titles up on them in order to justify their mistreatment. And so, and then for even with our own community to turn against us, because now they're pushing this narrative to our own people that their own children are the predators, are the enemy. So now you have not only the powers that be that's going against you, but you have your own community that's going against you as well. So that was what was going on. That was what was taking place at the time of my incarceration when I was first arrested. You know, and so I ended up being a political pawn in somebody else's, should I say, political game of chess. Like, you feel me? And I was put out and demonized in the public in order to basically have a image of gang violence to our community and to our society in general, and show on what the powers that be or this system does to gang members. And so I was given the most strict sentence. You know what I mean? I was humiliated all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it was like I said, it was a very traumatic experience out the gate.
So was it were you always like fighting to come home?
Yeah.
Like, cause some people, you know, when they get to jail, they be like, man, I'm gonna just take it. You know, I'm gonna just. Was you always fighting? Was you in the law library? Like, what sponsored this?
Allah Himself. Like, I could give you a whole bunch of different scenarios of what motivated me to fight. So I did fight. I fought the whole time. But it goes back to the humanity. And so, even as a child that was oblivious to the severity of his situation, I still knew that what was taking place was wrong. And so, you know, I begged for my mom. You know, I used to scream at the top of my lungs that I was innocent. And I tell anybody that was listening, you know what I mean, because I knew that I was somewhere that I wasn't supposed to be. And I was being held accountable for someone else's actions, and I knew that that was wrong, morally wrong, you know what I mean, as a human being, to punish somebody for somebody else's actions, especially a child. And so that was my motivation, just knowing that something was wrong and believing that the Creator had never placed a burden on me greater than I have the strength to bear. Believing that eventually everything in the dark would come to the light. So just persistence beats resistance. Just keep on grinding. Eventually, you know, Allah will open up those doors. But
you got a lot of support and stuff though around coming home, didn't you?
So it's a process. You feel me? Like, my community always supported me. My neighborhood, you know what I mean, my family, the people that I knew, because everybody knew that it was an injustice that took place. Like, it wasn't like 18 years later, all of a sudden, you know, the world finds out that MYON BURRELL was innocent. Like,
they knew from the start.
Everyone knew that I was innocent. It was just that their voices were muted. I believe that it was a strategic plan that was put together to instill fear in our people, to take an innocent youth from our community and publicly lynch them. In order to instill fear in our people, to say, listen, this is what we have the capacity to do. We could actually victimize you, steal your children, steal your youth, turn them into slaves, send them in the system, and there won't be any consequences. And even if you have evidence showing that what we did was wrong, you still won't be heard because of where the powers that be. And so I did have a lot of support from the people that knew me, but then that stuff dwindles off, like it dies off as time passes. And so I spent the majority of my life in prison, and sometimes, like, it was only, you know, my immediate family was there. Some of them even faded away. But then in 2020, amazing woman, Robin McDowell, she had actually ended up doing an investigation. She's an investigative journalist, and she did an investigation of my case, and she found all these inconsistencies. She seen my innocence, and she published a story, an AP story, for the Associated Press.
Was it without your knowledge? She did that on her own?
I was aware that they were digging and putting stuff together or whatever. But so a lot of times when people are digging and somebody's in prison, they're afraid of that because they don't want something to be unearthed. But with me, it was the exact opposite. You know what I mean? It was like, no matter what, I know that you could dig as much as you want, you'll find the truth, and the truth is that I'm innocent. And so that's what ended up happening. And she exposed it and ended up going national. And so when that went national, And not just that, but the actual district attorney, the 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 DA of Hennepin County at the time of my prosecution, who led everything on my case, ended up running.
Which was who?
Amy Klobuchar. She ended up running to be the next president of the United States of America, and in that run, she mentioned my name as a badge of honor, if you like to say it, of the things, the good work that she's done for our community in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. And I believe that at that point, everybody had already known. There was so many people that were aware of the fact that it was an innocent man that was in prison, still to this day, for a crime he didn't commit, and that there was no accountability for the people who imposed those injustices on him. And so with her speaking, I think it kind of put that, it kind of gave it a more legs, you know what I mean, as far as the free MYON, as far as people actually addressing.
So when she came out, it helped the,
no,
you saying?
No, it wasn't any help or anything like that. It was that basically she spoke out and said that she does right by the black community, and that she locked a black, well, she didn't speak about a boy, she spoke about a man. She basically said that she locked the person up that was responsible for committing this atrocity in the black community, which was the murder of Tyesha Edwards. And it was an atrocity. But she victimized me in order to, I was victimized in the process in order to create an image of this bad guy, in order to wrap it up in a bow tie and send it back to the public and say, listen, this is what we've done for the black community. But in reality, it was just a little 16-year-old black boy that just got kidnapped from his family, his whole community, and sent into slavery for a crime he didn't commit because you felt like his life wasn't worth living or felt like he was inferior. You feel me?
Yeah. So you basically been in prison half your life then?
I was in prison the majority of my life.
Majority?
I was 16 when I went to prison. I spent more than 18 years in prison.
Right.
So I was in prison longer than I was alive outside prior to me coming.
I mean, what type of stuff was you doing in prison?
As far as what?
As far as like what helped you get through your time? Knowing you innocent, like I know that's what helped you.
It's a lot. Like Islam is all I like. So I kind of came from a circumstance or situation to where I always deemed myself self-sufficient. So nobody ever really gave me anything in life. I always took the initiative to go out and get it. And the Creator himself would always facilitate those endeavors for me to where like I'd be prosperous. Like I end up on top every time. Like if I was grinding, I was hustling, whatever, like I would end up with, you know what I mean? Or if people were supposed to be obligated to be there for me but weren't, it was always like, okay, you're not gonna do it for me, so I could do it for myself. And so what ended up happening is the Creator allowed me to be placed in a position to where it was nobody else. Like I couldn't help myself and nobody else could help me. And everybody I ran to for help, like, you know what I'm saying, either they failed or they turned their back on me because it wasn't for them to help. Like that wasn't their position. And I believe that the Creator put me in a position to where I had to rely wholly on Him and solely on Him to come and to answer my supplications. And in doing so, He enlightened me to certain things. Like I was, I had, my vision was clear in a lot of different aspects. And I evolved, I grew. Like I was a child. I was still a child, even though I was mature. I was a child when I went to prison. And so I learned a lot of things about life. I learned a lot of things about self. But for the most part, it was just knowing that, believing in my Creator, that was it. Like knowing that, like, and I don't get it twisted, because sometimes I got sad, I got down, got tired, all that shit, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? Hella times. Like I was in there the majority of my life. Like I went through a lot of different stages. But ultimately,
were you Muslim your whole life?
Yeah, for the majority of my life.
So when you went in, you was Muslim?
Yeah, I was Muslim, but you know, I wasn't practicing, you feel me? Like,
so I know there's moments in the Quran where they say you will be tested, you'll be brought closer to Allah. You think that was one of those type of situations, or it was, or like everything happens for a reason, or?
Yeah, for sure. Well, ultimately, as Muslim, we know that sometimes we dislike things that are good for us and we love things that are bad for us. And so we kind of get lost in the any Western ideology of everything that feels good is good, and that's not necessarily the truth all the time. You know, these are ideologies that came from other places. If you look at historically with our people, a lot of times our blessings always came in the struggle itself. Like even from Africa, you know what I mean? Historically, like we went through rites of passage, like certain different stages in order to get to the victory, you know what I mean? So there's blessings in the struggle. And with me is this, even though it hurt, I always focus on reality, and I knew that it was my reality. And so I felt like I was in a super poisonous situation, but it was my obligation to actually dig and extract the medicine out of the poison itself. Like how when a person's bit by a snake, you know, the first thing the medics do is they go and they extract the medicine from the poison itself. Like the anti-venom is actually or even if you get influenza, you know what I mean, people inject you with a dead virus in order to build your immune system up to where you could protect yourself. And so with me is that, like, I knew that there had to be some reason that I was there, even though I was in there for something I didn't do. And I also knew that until I gained what it was that I was supposed to gain, the Creator wasn't going to open up the doors and allow me to go home. And so that was like, you feel me, with me is that, like, okay, even though this is a unpleasant situation, it has to be some type of benefit from it because of my Creator's allowing me to go through it. You know what I'm saying? And I haven't done anything to be here. You feel me?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You was the imam though while you was in prison, right?
Yeah, I was imam.
How you get that position?
That's an elected position. An imamate is an elected position. That's not a position that anybody would want.
Yeah.
I mean, I know me personally, I wouldn't. And like the sooner, like, for somebody to desire that position, they have to be in a different state of mind than because of the obligations that come with being a leader of another human being or being accountable for other people's actions. But it comes from basically a community of people that that observe the character of an individual and say that they believe in this person's character enough to where they will actually allow them to lead them. And so,
How old was you when you was the imam in prison?
the first time I was assistant imam when I was 16, 17. I was the imam when the first time I was imam was maybe like 22, maybe 22, maybe like 17 the first time. I was like 17. And then I went to the county. My conviction was overturned. I went to the county for 3 years. And when I came back, I ended up being imam, and I was 22. And then I was imam later on. So I was imam quite a few times.
Well, tell me about that. Tell me like the hardships, what come with that, like how people perceive you, how you gotta be, you know, do you gotta be perfect? You gotta walk a straight line. Like how is it being the imam in prison, basically in jail for murder?
It's a whole different. One thing about prison is that it's a reflection of the outside world, but it's a world in itself, and it's a world that you're under the microscope constantly 24/7. People are watching you. You live on top of people, or people live on top of you. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you're in the same room, and so imagine sharing a bathroom with somebody and being stuck in that bathroom for 24 hours, 23 hours a day, whatever, you know what I mean? And so people observe what you're doing. And the thing about Islam is that there's so many people that are anti-Islam, like, or Islamophobics, but everybody looks at the criteria that it takes for a person to be Muslim, or everybody knows the criteria that it takes for people to be Muslim. And so a person could hate Islam to the heart, but if they believe that you're Muslim and they see something that you're doing that is in contradiction or conflict to what Islam represents, then not only Well, they attack you, but they'll use you as a means to attack Islam. Um, and or even with your own brothers and sisters, sometimes, you know, people get that look at you, and they want the best for you until you have the best, and then when you have the best, all of a sudden now you're put under the microscope again, and so any flaws that you have, which we're human beings, we're gonna have flaws. They're amplified, and so people like to be in that position is like a very, very hard situation, because to to be Muslim, you already have to uphold a high character, but then to be imam, to be a leader of the Muslim, it's almost as if you're supposed to be perfect, or people look at you as if you're not supposed to be a human being anymore. And so if you make human flaws, or if you make human errors, it's almost like, you're gonna have darts thrown at you every time. So you have to prepare yourself for that, and you have to watch, like, so many times, like I could actually see, I could see these things taking place, and they're coming from people that you would not expect, or maybe like where it hurts you to see people that you care about, assassinate your character for striving and maybe falling short.
So you was in jail for 18 years. I know you've seen a lot of people come back, get out and get released and come back. Why you think that's so? Why is that such a reoccurring thing for our people? Like to go back to jail. Recidivism.
So me personally, I believe that two things. I believe that the prison system is undoubtedly a new form of slavery. It breaks my heart every day when I wake up to think that I was a slave, but I acknowledge the fact that, like, I was in slavery. Like, literally, like, I worked for slave wages. Like, literally, like, I had somebody else's wrath imposed upon me. Like, I was, like, up underneath tyrants all the time. Like, I dealt with those circumstances, you know what I mean? Deprivation of having the opportunity to have affection with your family and your loved ones, not being able to have a wife, like, all of these different things, you know what I mean? Not to have compassion, like, all these different things. And so, to me, is that I believe that place is designed to turn men into slaves, period. You know what I mean? To break a man, to break his spirit. And it's also designed to breed hopelessness.
So you think that kind of gets stuck in people's head, like they kind of become...
This is the best as it's going to be. So that place is... So, all right, now, I'll give you a layout. You come to prison as a free man or a free person, and as soon as you get into, say, even the county jail, right, you're going in an intake, so you're stripped of all your worldly possessions. Like, they take all your possessions from you, whatever. So then they follow you, they pat you down or whatever, and they take a picture of you in your worst state, like when you're looking bad, like when, you know what I mean, they take a picture of you in that state, and then they funnel you into holding tanks and let you sit there to think. For hours, just let you sit there to think or look at other people, you know what I mean? And they strip you down. They take your clothes, like they strip you down, and they humiliate you, look at you, whatever. And then they put on somebody else's clothes. Now you're put on somebody else's identity, and it looks like everybody else. Everybody's wearing the same thing. You feel me? And so then everything is taken away from you, and then they start giving you little things. They might give you a bedroll, or they might give you a cup, and then you see how people covet those small things, like they just want a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But because they were given the bare minimum, if you just give them a little bit more, they'll be content with it. And so many times people I seen going to prison and they get conditioned because they actually, like, you get penalized for not conforming to the ideologies of that system, like to not conforming with the system. So whether it's me wanting to drink some hot water with my coffee and getting loss of privileges for me having hot water, or whether it's me, you know what I'm saying, wanting to get on the phone and talk to my family after I get off a 15-minute phone call, I'm being penalized for. These are human acts, right? And I'm being penalized for me being a human being. So they're trying to program me into functioning like a robot. And then at the end of my prison stay, they might have like a class to say, okay, we'll reintegrate into society, or whatever they call pre-release, or whatever the fuck. But it's like you've been conditioned for the last 2-3 decades to be a robot, and then you send somebody outside to function in the world like that.
Yeah.
and tell them to function with the regular human beings.
Right.
So now people are living in two different worlds, and they might not exist too well out here in the real world because they don't know how to function anymore. So what they do is they go back to where they do know how to function because somebody else is gonna think for them. And when you're in that place, somebody tell you what to do 24/7. You don't have to think for self.
How you fight that now though? Since you did so much time, you know, not conforming to that mindset to send you back.
So with me is that I'm a realist, and so even though like it hurt, I felt every day of me being in prison, I remind myself where I was at, and I did that intentionally for me to hate that place. And like I don't like anything about prison. Like before I came home with like Bilal Tila, like I was on my face like, yeah Allah, like I can't take this no more. You feel me? Like I'm tired. I don't like the phone calls. Like I don't like the food. I don't want to cook. Like I don't want to visit. Like I don't want to. I want to go home. You know what I mean? And dealing with that type of deprivation, as well as the things that I lost in the process. Like I lost priceless things. Like as a 16-year-old child being housed in Hennepin County Jail, my mom died leaving from visiting me in a county jail in a car accident. You feel me? Like I'll never be able to see my mother again. I'll never be able to hold her. You know what I'm saying? She'll never be able to see me mature. I'll never be able to speak elegant to her. Like I'll never be able to explain to her who I've become. You know what I mean? These are losses that I'll never be able to get back. And so with me not having those things, so many things I see other people have, and they might be oblivious to the fact that like it's other people that'll never be able to experience the things that they're experiencing in real time. Or they might look at you and they be having some type of jealousy or envy for what you have, but they don't realize that everything you have, you pay for it in blood. You know what I mean? They have things that you'll never be able to have in life, and they have an option or an opportunity to have what you have as long as they strive for it. And so with me is that constant reminder of what I didn't have makes me appreciate what I do have, and I think about the brothers and sisters that don't have it right now, and it breaks my heart every day. I wake up thinking about what, like I still know it's child time. You know what I mean? Like I still know when it's time to lock in. Like I could you imagine going 2 decades without seeing the moon, the stars at night, even as a grown man, to not step outside at nighttime for 2 decades. You know what I mean? Or for you to walk in circles, never being able to just go in a straight line, somebody telling you to turn around. You feel me? For just years and years and years, or being housed in solitary confinement. You feel me? Like I remember just being a seg, bro. Like, you feel me? Not leaving up out of your cell at all, bro. Your skin peeling. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? These are real life experiences, and they're embedded in my brain. Like I don't forget them, but I intentionally don't forget them so that I never allow them to happen again. And inshallah, I never allow them to happen to anybody that I care about. You know what I mean?
So what moment though? I know you say the story was put out by I forget
Robin
the name.
McDowell.
Yeah.
Robin McDowell, also Associated Press.
But what was the moment though that was like, I'm finna go home?
It wasn't so it was a process. So that's why I said, like I said at the say, so when things gained traction and like it went national and it was just like free MYON, free MYON, free MYON, it was so many other things that were taking place. So the AP investigation dropped, or the AP pieces dropped like right prior to the death or the murder of George Floyd. And so everybody was like on free MYON. Like I was getting letters from the Netherlands, like people were,
When did you come home again?
in December 2020.
Okay, so that's after. Is that after
George Floyd.
Okay.
So then George Floyd was murdered, and it was like the whole world was devastated, and it was kind of like, you know, my case kind of like dwindled down and people stopped really talking, but the people that knew. And so the parallels of George Floyd and MYON BURRELL like couldn't be like swept under the rug. And so many people believed like that I was George Floyd before George Floyd, and had this system addressed the injustice that took place in my situation, that George Floyd would have never been murdered in 2020. I say that to say is that, like, you know, I told the police to go into Cut Foods and get the tapes from Cut Foods. You know what I mean? Like, I'm from that same block. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even as far as like from him begging for his mom. You know what I mean? Like, I begged for my mom, like in the interrogation, like literally like begged for my mom. A little kid begging for his mom. The detective lying, telling me that my mom isn't there. She's in the next room. and lying, telling my mom that I confessed to the crime in the other room. My mom breaking down in the other room, thinking that her son, that, you know, you feel me? Like, these are real issues, and I believe that because they were allowed to be swept under the rug back then, history continuously repeated itself. But just so happened at that time, everything had come to a head, and it was actually on film. So the whole world was like they couldn't lie and whitewash it or create a false narrative, or even how they try to demonize the brother out the gate, you know what I mean, or lie about the, like, that stuff happened, you know what I mean. That's really what happens in real life, you know what I mean, if you control the narrative, you know what I mean. But
So how you feel about how do you feel about the relationship between the Arabs and the blacks at the corner stores? You know, with situations like this, you know, and other situations that go on that don't make the police get called.
I think anytime when you're in a community that you don't identify with the people that you're serving, that there's gonna be things like that are gonna happen, because if I see my people doing something wrong and I know that it's not nothing that's gonna put my life in danger, then I'm gonna try my best to correct it. You feel me? I'm not gonna call anybody else that I know that can actually harm my community. Like, I'm not gonna call in even if a police officer, a good police officer, right? Just knowing that potentially he could come in here and kill somebody that I care about that look like me. You're not gonna come in here unless that's what's needed. You feel me? And I believe that, like, that was something that was so small, but the consequences were not just dire consequences, because it was life changing consequences. He lost his life, but it changed our world. It changed, like, our reality. It shaped our reality. It shaped our state. Like, it shaped our country. You know what I mean? It changed things. But it was all behind somebody feeling like he was insignificant, I believe. Because I don't think that anybody would have called the police on a cousin who came in there that hadn't even committed a crime. Like, he didn't even he didn't go in there and steal anything, or it wasn't like you know, he gave him the money and like, they're saying that he tried to give him a fake bill. You know what I mean? And
My thing is, like, I wasn't there, but it's like, why not just give him the money back? That's fake. Get up out of here.
I mean, I believe that that's what happened though, but it was still like the police were called.
Right. I'm
You know
saying
what I mean?
do that without calling.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What
like, no, this fake.
what was hurting you to, like, it wasn't like he was gonna come back and or send somebody, like, Allahu Alam, like, I'm not sure. So me personally, is when it comes to anybody that's serving the community that they don't identify with the people, it's not gonna work. Now, it's other people. Me personally, like, I love my brothers, I love my sisters, you know, period. You know what I'm saying? When they see the humanity in my people. But as Muslim, like, I always been the one that felt like you can't just accept me because I'm Muslim, or because you know, you feel like I have a decent character, or you might take a liking to me as an individual, but then you hate my people and then you say that you love me. Like, it's impossible for you to say that you love me and hate my people. And a lot of times that stuff is like, it's not hidden. Like, the racism and the hatred is not hidden, even to the point where you see the inferiority, like the way that they treat our people like they're inferior, or they might talk to them like they don't talk to their own family, or you might see people having undecent relationships with people from our community, little girls, or, you feel me, but then they you know what I mean, like, this stuff happens in real life. But I feel like, so when me personally, I believe that like, anything in our community should be, like, owned by us. And not saying like that it shouldn't be other races that are there, but, like, if somebody else is there, then I should be it shouldn't be like, you feel me, like, I should be bringing you to my community, not, you know what I mean, like, you're running my, that doesn't make any sense.
What would you say is the biggest difference, or the hardest thing for you to adjust to being out now, as opposed to life before incarceration? Like, what just blow your mind? Like, dang, I can't get that, or that's weird, or just, you know, how people live, or, you know.
So now the difference is that everything is all about imagery. And so people right now, they could as long as they have an image of being something, they're content with it. Whereas before, people wanted to be something, and then they didn't want to have accolades for it. They just wanted to be able to reap the benefits from it. Whether it's a businessman, whether it's having good, but like you wanted to just be able to be you, and you know what I mean. And now it's just like everything is about a false image, and not just that, but like sincerity. Sincerity is a very rare character trait to come across these days. And whereas before, like before I went to prison, what you seen is what you got. Like even with people that were like bad people, or they might not have been people that you might necessarily dealt with, or you knew what it was that you were dealing with. But in these days, you have to peel through so many layers to get to the real person, that a lot of times it's just like, okay, well, I'll just stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to. I ain't finna chase no waterfalls, you feel me? Like, almost where you become pessimistic when it comes to people, because of so many, you have to go through so much to actually learn who they are. And a lot of times when you find out who they really are, it's not the person that you thought that it was. So that's, for me, the biggest, that, and I mean, just the fact that like everybody's dead. Like, the majority of people that I knew and I was close to perished while I was in prison. So like, a lot of my family members are dead. Like, they're not here. Like, a lot of my friends are, you know what I mean? And so like, having to deal with that, or having to go places and look and see that this is something that's the here and now, but it wasn't always that way. And so I sometimes view life through a split screen, where I could see the then and I could see the now. And that shit, like, that stuff will mess you up sometimes, right? You feel me? Because then, like, you know, you got to process, like, what took place to bring us to where we at right now. Or, like, or even acknowledging the fact that you'll never be able to get the then again. Like, you'll never be able to get that again.
That's tough? That's tough for you?
Yeah, that's one of the most hard, like, you feel me? Because even the happiness, like, you could have material possessions, you could have all of that stuff, you feel me? But, like, when you look and you say, like, man, damn, I remember, like, it was us. Like, I come from something. Like, I had a family. Like, I had friends. Like, I had a community. So to look at it, it's like, and it no longer exists. You know, it's a very, very, very painful situation. You know what I mean? Because it's like you having to actually accept the fact that, like, so many things that you love and that you hold near and dear to your heart, you'll never be able to experience them again. You know what I mean?
So I mean, like, so you went in jail when you were 16, so that means you didn't graduate high school, right? And then, so you like self-taught, because you able to articulate, you able to talk better than, I know a lot of people that I know ain't been locked up for 18 years.
Yeah, no, I didn't, so the last grade I completed before I went to prison was the 7th grade. So I stopped going to school, like, after 7th grade. I went back and forth, you know, a couple times. I was trying school right before I went to prison, and I was kidnapped.
That's what you call it, bit kidnap, right?
For sure.
Kidnap.
That's what happens when you go and grab a little kid and you take them against their will, right? When you force them against their will to be somewhere they're not supposed to be. Sure. That's a kidnap, right? It's just who is the assailant, you know what I mean? But so I didn't really, like, don't get, like, I was never slow. Like, I was like always mature for my age. But as far as book smarts, like, I was never really intrigued with school. You feel me? It wasn't like really, a lot of stuff I didn't feel like I would ever use it, so I didn't see, you know what I mean? I wanted to know, like, life lessons, like, tell me about life. And so when I went to prison, like, I didn't really know how to write or read, or, like, I had never read a book, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had never read a letter, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I gradually taught myself how to do those things. And then I start finding out about the things that I like. I start learning about the things that I like as an individual, as a person, as a human being. And a lot of it was history, you feel me? Like, I always wanted to know where stuff, because it, like, that's a messed up feeling to be confused, you feel me? And a lot of our hardships, like, our pain in life come from being confused, like, not understanding why, like, why the fuck, like, why me, like, why, like, what, you feel me? And so I always want to go back to the source, like, to figure out why things is working the way that they are. So I start digging, you feel me? And, you know, I mean, I study law, like, I study history, like, I study, you know, race, and I study revolution, like, I study different things But like I never like I didn't take college classes or I didn't. You feel me? I got my GED, but like I didn't. Like I had life in prison. So
Right.
it's like, what's the purpose of having a degree when like you'll never be at like I'm fighting to come home. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like everything in me like is
Yeah.
it being exhausted with me fighting to bring the truth out and bring me home, right? And and outside of that is like self education. Like I want to know about some stuff that's gonna benefit my people, not some stuff that's just gonna have me conforming to somebody else's ideologies or somebody else's systems.
What ended up happening with the prosecutor?
No prosecutor.
The Amy
Uh, yeah, she so
what's her
ended up
name? What's her name?
Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
So she ended up dropping out of the race like right after like it went national about my innocence and like it wasn't really like she ended up dropping out, but she's actually a United States senator. You know what I
Still.
mean? Yeah, she's a senator to
So
this day.
it was no consequence for her?
There's no consequences, period, like for anybody. Um, so that's when I say that what say like if you look at it like okay historically, like I give you a layout historically, right? Is that in the past when when they had our people on plantations, if they seen a strong man, it was like, you feel me, black man, it was looked at as, you feel me, being something to his people. But he might have been intimidating to the slave owners, you know what I mean? Or, you know, he might have just had more power than they felt like he's supposed to have. What would happen is that a lot of times he would be brought into the middle of middle of the plantation, and he might be beat, he might be maimed, castrated. You feel me? He might be lynched. But like basically, like he's an example of strength to his people. So we're gonna break him. And so if I break the strongest man that you have, like then you'll never even try to do anything remotely close to what he's doing to bring himself to that level in our eyes or in your eyes or whatever. And so if you look at Chauvin, right? You look at Chauvin. You know when he was murdering George Floyd and he had his, you know, he had his knee in his neck, right? And you seen that look like he wasn't looking at George Floyd like he was looking at the spectators. He was looking at the people that was around. Even the smirk, right? Like he was looking at them with that look of I can do what I want to do and I'm not gonna be accountable. Like I'm not gonna be held accountable for this. I'm gonna kill him.
It was arrogant.
Yeah, you feel me? And there's not gonna be any accountability. He didn't believe that there would be any accountability. And he believed that the brother's life was insignificant and that he didn't really like his life wasn't worth living. And so with me as well, like I believe that that's what was done basically, you know what I'm saying, was that I was
So there was no sort of remorse or anything that came from her.
I don't think that
No
anybody
statement or anything.
No, I don't think anybody intended on like so. Okay, it breaks my heart what happened to me, right? But the reality of it is that it's not uncommon.
Right.
It's just not common for it to be exposed.
Right.
You know, it's a lot of brothers and sisters in prison right now for stuff that they didn't do. You feel me? And that break my heart every day to think about that because I know what it feels like. You know what I mean? But no, that wasn't. I mean, you had detectives on my case paying people to lie on me. You had like, you know what I'm saying, all type like lying on the stand, cops lying, all type of stuff. But there wasn't any account. There's never been any accountability. But that if you look at the state of Minnesota, and you kind of understand why, like historically, like if you look at.
So that's what pushed you to become the people's voice.
Yeah, for sure. That's what. So it's shaped like I didn't choose, you know, my life. Like I didn't choose. Like some people actually like grow up in families of like activists or like lawyers or like I didn't come from that. You feel me? Like I come from a different situation, but life happens, and so for me is that for like it'll be a slap in the face for me to be aware of what was going on with my people and not be there to help them. Because of like the plan is to basically put blindfolds on the eyes of society to where they don't see that basically that we're suffering from a wound that's been from the very conception of this country, like the racism, like the belittling our people. Like, come on now, they still send our people into slavery. You feel me? Like, that's some hard shit. Like, that's a hard pill to swallow, bruh. To know, like, I got a son that's in the county jail right now, you feel me, fighting for his life, and like they're trying to send him into slavery, you feel me? Like, they want to turn my baby into a slave. Yeah, he was a year old when I went to prison, you feel me? I come home, you know what I mean? I had to, like, that's a hard pill to swallow, bro.
Sure, for sure. Do you feel like you gotta, I guess, like, learn your identity again? Like, or not again, but just like, you was gone for a long time. You know, you come out the world so different. You know,
For sure.
do you know what you like? Do you
Yeah.
learning again? You know what I'm saying?
I think that we evolve as human beings. You're gonna continuously evolve, and so even the person I am right now is not the person I was a year ago, or 2 years ago. You feel me? Or 5 years ago. But it's always waking up and checking your intentions every day, and just know if you motivate, if you're doing what's right, of like whatever happens, happens. You feel me? And that's how I feel. As far as learning myself, is that like I wasn't one of them people that. So you know how people talk about like, oh man, he went to prison as a kid and he got stuck there. Like, he's just a kid. That's why he messed up, because he just got caught he stuck as a kid. And it's like, nah, I didn't get stuck as no kid, bro. You feel me?
That's common.
I grew
feel
up.
like though. That is common though. For
I think so I think that I think that when you create a false illusion of who you are in there, that you get lost in the sauce, like in that false narrative, you'll get lost in that character.
yeah.
And a lot of people go to prison and they create an image of who they are, like a false image. And so they get lost into that. Like, I was still me when I was in there. Like, and that was what my fight was every day, was to hold on to my humanity. Like, I didn't go to the hole a lot for fighting, or like for like, of course, like I took faith, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I like little stuff happened, whatever, but like most of my issues came from me trying to hold on to my humanity. You feel me? Like, somebody tell you something is wrong and you tell them it's wrong, and then they tell you that if you speak about it, it's a disobeying a direct order for you to, so now you're being penalized for speaking out against what's wrong. Or, you know what I'm saying, for somebody to tell you that, you know what I'm saying, like, that you can't hold you feel me, like, you can't hold your sister, like, you feel me, my sister, I can't hold her, she crying, you feel me, she going through it, you know what I'm saying, something going on with her people, like, you tell me I gotta let her go, like, it's not gonna happen, like, you're gonna have to do whatever you're gonna do with me later on, but you know what I'm saying, like, this is me being a human being, like, I'm supposed to be there for my family, like, I'm supposed to, you feel me?
So like, what are some solutions you think? You know, like you said, it's common. You know, it's happening to a lot of people. What be solutions when it come to this type of stuff? Like, people not being held accountable and
So the blessing right now is that we actually control our own narrative. Like, this Traprite, like, you feel me? This is where it's at, bro, to keep it 100, because like, you're actually giving people their own voice. You know how often when you go and do an interview for a news station, they chop that stuff up? Like literally, like, you might do a interview for 3 hours, bro, and then you might see it, and it might be 10 seconds, something that you said that's on the back of something that somebody else said to push the narrative that they were trying to, you know what I mean? But for us to be like telling our stories, like, you actually telling our stories, like, you feel me? And the people that are receiving it, to be aware is to be alive. And I believe that it all boils down to reminding our people of who they are. Like, actually telling them who they are, showing them who they are. That's the solution to the problem. You feel me? Like, we done got, like, literally, we done bought into the we done bought into the BS that they've been pushing to us, telling us who we are. You feel me? For the mass majority of our people, like, are content with being at the bottom. And if they see you prosper, they want to pull you back to the bottom, because they want for you what they want for themselves.
So where you was at? Your journey in what prisons was you in?
I was in St. Cloud, I was in Stillwater. I spent a lot of time. I was in Stillwater from like, well, maybe like like maybe 12 years, maybe 11, 12, 13 years or something, 12 years. I was in St. Cloud. I never got certified, but I was sentenced as an adult as a juvenile, so I was sent to the to the youth offender program. But then when I turned in St. Cloud,
yeah.
When I turned 19, my conviction was overturned. I went back to Hennepin County Jail from 2005 to 2008. So I set a record for Sunday Hennepin County Jail. I sat down there for like 39 months. Then they reconvicted me, you know what I'm saying, the second time, sent me back to pen, like, '08. You know what I'm saying? I was there from like '08 to 2020.
So yeah, I definitely know a lot of young dudes that, like you say, they get okay with not having nothing, and then that little bit that they give them, and then that kind of make them come back. Like it makes sense though, you know. It's like they get conditioned that it's okay or it's not that bad in prison.
And it's not just that, bro. Like a lot of times, man, that's the only place people don't experience real love. Cause like out here, like, you know, people will tell you they love you all the time, like, but it be plastic. And they're, you know, like people they might share their last meal with you, feel me? Like they might, you know what I'm saying? Cause nobody has anything in there, you feel me? So if somebody's doing something, they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. And so that does happen, you feel me? And also, like I told you, like that place breeds hopelessness. So, when you start believing that that's it, like that's as good as it gets. Or like even like I give you a spill for people to be in there doing life, you feel me? Like so many people, I believe it's the same thing. It's a parallel for like the people to be outside because they just stuck in a, like life on an installment plan. But I seen people self-sabotage in prison just to have something to reach for. You feel me? Like an example, right? Like somebody might be doing life in prison and he's just getting out of seg. He's just getting out the hole. But he's striving, and so he stay out of trouble, he get a job, and then he work his way up to top pay at his job, and then he might want to go and get a single cell. And then after you get a single cell, you know, you might want to get, so in a different unit, and eventually he gets to the best unit, he got the best job, you feel me? He got the best pay that he's gonna get in prison, and then he realizes that's it. Like that's as good as life is gonna get for him. Like there's nothing more in that place for him. The best that he could get, like he already has it. And so I seen people when that registers, sometimes it don't even register, it's like unconsciously done, right? But they're self-sabotage. Like they're go to the seg for some stupid stuff. Like you'll see them end up like go to the child home, yell at the police or slap it. Like you feel me, like something just stupid. They didn't even. It's like damn, but the reality of it was is that they didn't have anything else to reach for. Yeah. So now when they go to SEG and they go to ACU in Oak Park, and then they gotta go back through to build themselves back up to get somewhere because they was already at the top. You know what I'm saying? And wasn't nowhere else to go. And I think that that's how I be with brothers that be leaving, and they feel like, you know what I'm saying, that's it. Like they done already did it so many times, and I got out. People don't respect them for being fresh, and you know what I'm saying, people showing them love because they missed them, and then a week later people treating them different. Now, you know, they ain't got no money. Now they ain't got no, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, they want to go back to getting that fresh feeling again.
That's what I was gonna ask you. How do people from your past treat you or respond to you, and more so when you first came home? You know, like when they see you, do they expect you to be old MYON? Do they, or they like you changed, you acting weird? Like how they be?
I think so. With me, it's a little different because like I was in prison my whole life, bruh. And so I wasn't a bad person before I went to prison. Like I was always a good person. You feel me? Like I ended up in a messed up situation, but like I was always a good person. And so everybody knew me, knew that. You feel me? And then so like, and then like my whole journey was always documented. Like if something happened in my life, it was always blasted on the news, or so people felt like they were traveling with me. A lot of people did. When people would see me, they'd say, oh, well, I just seen her, I just heard her, and be like, yeah, all right, you know what I'm saying, you feel me? But I'm still alive, bro. Like I'm still living. Like I'm in here, bro. Like you feel me? And so when I came home, I realized that it wasn't that I become a representative of something for my people. And so even if people was from like somewhere else, like from a different neighborhood, or we might not have, you know what I'm saying, like when they see me, they know who I am. Like it's not like, it ain't no plastic. Like I don't come to take nothing from you. I don't come to hurt you. You feel me? Like they hurt you enough. They took enough. You feel me? Like I represent you. Like I'm you and you're me. And so just for them to see somebody familiar that knows who they are, knows their greatness, knows their, you know what I mean? Like, and is pushing it, you know what I'm saying, for them, you feel me? Like they salute it you know what I'm saying, everywhere I go, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you represent me. Like, don't nobody want to hurt somebody to represent them, or ain't nobody mad at somebody to represent, or because you change, even if you saying that like, I'm not doing what you're doing, I'm doing what you want to do. Cause like our people don't want to be at the bottom. They don't want to, like, you know, you feel me? So if I'm pushing and I'm doing something that they might not be able to do for themselves, then they behind me like, bro, like push, you know what I'm saying? Go. And when you get there, come back and grab, you know what I'm saying? Come back and grab us. Come back for us, you feel me?
For sure. But you had a lot of celebrity support, or did you? I should ask.
Yeah, I mean, some celebrities jumped down, you feel me? Like a lot of people got involved, you know, a lot of like Sonny from The View, you know what I'm saying? Meek Mills was tweeted about me, you feel me? Like, there's a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? You know, football personnel, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that got involved. You know, your dad, you know what I'm saying? Your dad a superstar. You know, your dad spoke on my behalf of my commentation hearing, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to the brother McCrone.
But did they so they just basically spoke out? They ain't were they
it was
helping
hella
to
protest.
get you home?
Nah, so what it was is that like with my movement it was a little different.
Right.
So because it was the time of George Floyd. And so like it just became big conglomerates of right. Like if something's right, then people just like a ball of right. Just so happened to like MYON BURRELL was like already, and like the pieces were already put together. Yeah, I believe like it was divinely orchestrated. Allah put it together himself. Like it couldn't have been no other way. But if you look at the way that things fell into place, like it was almost like, okay, we need something solid that we can push. And so like it's doubts and other things. People will bring stuff, you know what I mean, and they want, but it's like, no, this is really a kid that was imprisoned for something he didn't do, and he's still in prison. You know what I mean? Like we still see his family like out here crying every day. Like we still see, and so like, you feel me? The voices, like people started, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, like you never know what them brothers and sisters was doing behind the scene. And I salute them. Like I appreciate Meek Mills. Like I appreciate Sonny. Like I appreciate, you know what I'm saying, what they did for me, you know what I'm saying, because what they did was they brought awareness. And so a lot of people that might not have been paying attention to MYON BURRELL, but was paying attention to them, you know what I mean? And it was like, cause Sonny, she like actually was going in, you feel me? Like that, like hands down, you feel me? I salute that.
Sonny?
From The View. You know the View, it's, I'll put you up on it.
So like, you know, people be hating in the joint. They don't necessarily like when people go home.
Yeah.
You experience any of that?
Yeah, so I didn't go. I went home the same day.
Oh, so okay, that's what I was going. That was gonna be another question. Did you have a date, or was it just like?
I had a hearing. I had a commutation and a pardon hearing. I went home that night. Okay. So
you telling the people though, I'm out of here. They was supportive. They was happy.
Nah, yeah, it was a different experience for me, bro. Like, it was some old otherworldly, like, so when I went home, they locked the whole prison down. And like, all right, so when I was doing my hearing, I was in like the office, like OSI office or whatever. And, you know, I heard like there was the COs, they was talking like, yeah, well, even if he gets the commentary, even if he gets it, it's going to be dragged out. You know what I mean? I'm thinking like, no, I'm going home. Like Allah told me I'm going home. Like today, like, bro, I've been on my face all night, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know it. Like, you feel me? I feel it, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just sitting there listening to these people talking about my fate. You know what I mean? They could care less, right? They're like, oh, yeah, and if he doesn't, you know, you'll take him back to the unit. It's like, yeah, you take an innocent man back to prison and sit him in a cell. Yeah, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? Without no work, you know what I'm saying? But now, like, now all of a sudden, like, it comes out, and I was like, oh, MYON BURRELL, thank you, Tar. I appreciate you. Always a good guy. And the CO, staff, everything, bro. So, like, all right, so, you know, they say, like, okay, you know, you granted your commutation. And my lawyer, like, was down the hallway, but she like, yeah, you going home. But the CO's like, okay, so we're just going to pack your stuff up and we'll meet you out. So I'm like, no, like, I can't just leave. Like, bro, I've been in here my whole life. Like, it's people in here, man, that raised me, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, like, I got an uncle down the hallway, my nephew down the, you know what I'm saying? Like, you feel me? And so I'm like, please, you know, just let me go back to the unit and grab some of my stuff and let me just say my goodbyes, you feel me? And so I left out the office. But when I was walking down the hall, like, it was just like quiet. Like, so when I went out in the hall, like all the lights in the whole prison was off and it was quiet. But I could hear like, it's at nighttime.
Nighttime?
But I could hear outside like free Maya, like free outside. I could hear it like shaking outside. And then when I start walking down the hallway, like brothers like, man, there you go. Like, you know what I'm saying? And the whole joint just went up like, oh, that really is it.
Heart beating?
Man, bro, I start crying, man. You feel me? I ain't even cry in prison. You feel me? Like, I couldn't help. Like, I'm like, what the, like, what's going on? So then I go back to the unit, you feel me? And like, I'm walking, I was on the second tier. So I was on the third tier, I was on 305. But I walked to the second tier and like, you feel me? Like, it just registered to me that like a lot of these people, I'll never be able to see them again in life. And it's like, it was a bittersweet situation. Like, it was hella sad. And but everybody was happy, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody was happy, you know what I mean? The whole joint was like, oh man, because everybody knew I was innocent. I mean, I'm pretty sure some people that was hating, you know what I mean? But they wasn't gonna hate out in the open. They wasn't gonna hate out in the loud because there's so many people. What I represent, you know what I'm saying? It was like, oh, now we got hope. Like, especially the people that's in there for something they ain't do. They like, God, they like, you know what I'm saying? You feel me?
Yeah, but then it's them dudes that's like, I ain't never going home. I don't care.
Nah, for sure. But
of those.
Usually that's not the brothers that be like, that feel like that. It's usually the people that ain't got no time to be like that, bro. Like, usually, you know what I'm saying, them brothers that be in there, they put everything into you because they feel like they ain't gonna be able to use it themselves. You know what I'm saying?
So your first day home, after you got out at nighttime, you got released at nighttime? Mm-hmm. What was that like though? What you do? But I know
that was the reality shock. Like, that was the, so bro, like, I came home, right? And so okay, now, so I'm telling you about how when I walked down the hall, like how it was all like, but then I walked out the doors. Like, I walked out the double doors. There's double doors in Stillwater. And like, my family was there. But like, the whole front of the prison was just full, like, just packed with people, bro. Big signs like, free, you know what I'm saying?
Media and all that?
Hell yeah, like, so much media, bro. Like, they had to rush me into a car, like, you know what I'm saying, a car, you know what I'm saying, drive me off. And so it was like some TV stuff. It almost like some, you know what I'm saying? But then I got home and it was like everybody was at home. But like, I had went from like being in a cell, like in a bathroom, to being just surrounded around all, and it's all love, but it was like, what the, like, what's going on?
Shocker.
And like, all these babies are grown. So like, little kids, it was like little kids when I went to prison, is like grown, like grown. So they walking up to me, talking to me, and I don't know how to really respond to it because like they were babies. And so like, I'm like, okay, well, I'll, you know, figure it out. But the first day home, I remember just, I went to the masjid. Matter of fact, your auntie had just passed, you feel me? And so I had went up to the masjid, you know what I'm saying? They like to, you know what I'm saying, like to get the information for the janazah or something, you feel me? Yeah. But y'all was in there, y'all was packing, you feel me? You don't want to, y'all saying y'all was in there doing your thing. And I remember just
that was the first day?
That was my first day home, bro. My first day home. It was my second day home. It was the night after the day I came home. So I just remember like, damn, like, you feel me, like, these people, not me being home, but like, these people, like, because in prison you usually see the same people, bro. Like, even if, you know what I'm saying, it might be a few people that come in there that be like new, but like, it's usually the same people coming out of the joint. Like, you know them. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I was just looking like, damn, like, man, you know, this is, but it's a process. It happened gradually. Like, it didn't all just happen at once.
For sure. It's a beautiful thing, though. Like, that story. I know you had to go through it, so it's easier for me to say it's beautiful, but like, hearing it and just faith, you know, that's what make me believe in Allah. For sure. Like, when things work out, you know.
All day, bro.
And like you say, it'd be unfortunate what you got to go through, but man, you know, you home. You
all
know?
Day, bro.
Blessings, you know. Blessings, for sure. What kind of advice can you give to somebody, though, that's going in and out of jail, or that's, you know, what kind of advice can you give to somebody to just get on the right path and just really fight for something and really.
The best advice for me, you know what I'm saying, for my people is to be who you are. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right is right and wrong is wrong. You feel me? Like, it's not hard to be able to separate the two. So many times that we go with allowing somebody else to tell us what's right and wrong, so that we don't have to think. You feel me? We might not have to feel. And so, like, I know that it's wrong for me to keep on going in the penitentiary, right? Because I see what the outcome is. Like, prison don't just break families because it separates them, right? But the things that transpire with them people are separated. Like, when they're reunited, it's two strangers that are reunited, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so now you got a society with people that don't even know each other. If you don't know each other, how you supposed to love each other, you feel me? And I think that that's it, like, remind our people of who they are and start loving them again, you feel me? Have them loving themselves, bruh. Like it feel good to do good for your people. Wallahi, like, even like when we was up in, you know what I'm saying, like, doing my own thing, like, bro, like, you know what I'm saying, like, you had to check your intentions and knowing what you're doing, but, like, really looking like, okay, I'm serving up these babies, like, bro, it felt good every day to get up and be down there in that kitchen, you know what I'm saying, putting it together. Like, it felt good to, you feel me? Cause you feel like you serving your purpose, huh?
Yeah. Nah, for sure, but like I said, I'm just in my head, I'm just like, man, if it was me, you know? Like, I'm just thinking like, man, I might have passed out. I hear them sounds.
Nah, bro, I think Allah, I know Allah, he
After 18 years.
But everybody struggle designed specifically for them.
Right.
You done been through some stuff in your life that I could have never went through, bro. You feel me? Or I might not even be able to identify with it because I didn't start life the way that you started it. Like, Allah look at, like, the level playing ground, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything starts on, you know what I'm saying, leveled off. And so, like, you know, at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, it hurts, but it was for me, you know what I'm saying? Like, I used to be like, why me? And then I realized, like, well, who else than you? Like, Allah shielded you from it. Like, he allowed you to go through it to where you still came out with your faculties. You still was able, you know what I'm saying, to actually, you know what I'm saying, process what was going on in life. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You're not burnt out. You feel me? Like, some people, like, I done seen people be burnt, like, fast, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? Just lose their mind. But it's like, no, he shielded you so that when you came home that you'd be able to identify with your people's trauma. You'd be able to feel their trauma, bro. Like, how you gonna fight for somebody if you don't feel them, you feel me?
Sure. What you working on, though? I know you got some stuff. I know you working on a few things.
I'm all gas, no brakes, bro. Right now, I got my documentary, you know what I'm saying? Working on my documentary. I got locked in, you know what I'm saying? With the Wayfinders organization. I'm actually just started that job, you know what I'm saying? Just recently, I'm locked in with Mary Moriarty. She running to be the next Hennepin County District Attorney, you know what I'm saying? You know, I push it until we all free, all square, you know what I mean? Like, it's just real boots on the ground work, you know what I'm saying? Like, anywhere I'm needed, I'm there.
You said documentary coming out?
Yeah, I got a documentary dropping, yeah.
What's it gonna be the name? It's your name or what?
So I got two little, well, you gonna people when it drop. I ain't gonna let you know what I'm saying?
God for this.
I ain't gonna, I'm gonna give it to you when it drop, bro. It's gonna be some deep stuff, though.
All right, man, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you showing up, man. We gonna chop it up. You gotta come back as we do stuff. You gotta come back. Part 2s, part 3s.
For sure. Home team, bro. I got you faded like bleach. For sure.
I saw like
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.